It's a battle for control of major highways across parts of central Ontario.
You know, violence like that, I never thought it would ever happen here.
Tow truck drivers shot, 4 of them fatally, vehicles torched.
There's a war raging across the Greater Toronto Area, and according to experts, it won't be long until the whole of Ontario could be plunged into madness. From deadly highway races to uncanny roadside beatdowns, the towing industry seems to be spiraling out of control. So far, there have been over 20 arrests, 50 cases of arson, 4 murders, and over $1 million worth of drugs seized by the authorities. Threats and intimidation are commonly the order of business, as many tow truck drivers are now often equipped with bulletproof vests and forced to live their everyday lives looking over their shoulders. But how did the towing industry come to encourage so much violence and crime? Continue watching as we explain the tow truck war that is slowly taking over Ontario. Even though you could argue that the towing industry in Canada has always been highly competitive, it was in 2017 that things noticeably worsened. The first instances to make headlines happened in southern Ontario, after competing tow truck companies damaged property as they fought for control over the highway. You may be thinking, aren't tows worth only a couple $100? Are the profits being made worth violence and sometimes even death? The answer is apparently yes. You see, according to authorities, some towing companies and truck drivers discovered that if they played their cards right, they could earn up to $2,000 a day in tax-free money. In cities like Toronto, the government has regulated the cost of the initial tow to a maximum of around $280 for most passenger vehicles. However, that's far from the only money a towing company can receive. Depending on the incident, the company might also charge for other services, including storage, on-hook and off-hook services, mileage, and more. For some daring towing companies, these alone are enough to make them fortunes. They can choose to massively inflate storage fees, and when customers insist upon getting their vehicles back, they can complicate the process by offering vague and incomplete information about where the vehicles are being held. Consequently, this further leads to increased storage fees that only get worse. You'll be surprised at how many victims eventually give in. For the longest time, this is how some towing companies made their money. However, more recently, they've seemingly also come to learn that they can make more from kickbacks from other players in the industry who are also looking to get paid. Some auto body shops and physiotherapy clinics offer drivers and companies substantial money for referring accident victims. After evaluation, they would then submit outlandishly inflated repair fees to the victims' insurance companies. According to insurance experts, the trend has become wildly profitable for the people responsible. In Canada alone, fake repair bills tally more than $2 billion annually. The profits are so addictive that the York Regional Police has reported that sometimes the parties involved will stage accidents and ram into vehicles when there aren't enough collisions to bring in more money. Adding the numbers together, in some cases, one tow can rake in tens of thousands of dollars. This insane revenue is why some towing companies are willing to torch one another for a piece of the cake. Nonetheless, in 2018, some insurance companies caught wind of what was happening and brought some auto body repair shops and physiotherapy clinics into court. Lisa Carr and her law firm, Carr Law, were some of the many contractors commissioned against the dark side of the towing industry. However, Carr's law firm, in particular, made significant moves against a dense network of insurance fraud. She claimed that some auto body repair shops, for sure, caused additional damage to the vehicles unknown to the vehicle owners, and if they were too damaged, they'd inflate their storage fees. All these allegations were validated before the court of law, and the collision data from the vehicle's black boxes confirmed her claims. All was going well, and the insurance companies were making good progress against the perpetrators in the towing industry. This was until things suddenly turned sour. In that same year, someone unsuccessfully attempted to set fire to Carr Law's premises. That same person tried again several months later and was actually caught on camera trying to light the place up. Additionally, in August 2019, one of Carr's associates was interrupted during lunch break when a masked assailant approached their vehicle, pulled out a handgun, and warned the lawyer to stop suing his friend. Weeks later, the same person showed up in front of the firm premises and shot through the windows in broad daylight. Fortunately, everyone was inside and nobody was injured. At this point, it dawned upon the police that they might not be dealing with everyday drivers turned rogue. These were coordinated attacks meant to instill fear. Attacks that were historically popular among organized crime rings. As a result, word started going around that the Greater Toronto Area was in the hands of the tow truck mafia. The suspicions would be confirmed in early 2020 when the York Regional Police uncovered a murder-for-hire plot circulating the underworld aimed at Lisa Carr. It was so bad that Lisa and her husband were given no more than an hour to pack their belongings and leave their home. Quickly, the police escorted them to the border and out of the country, where they would spend the next 5 months in hiding. Back home, in February of the same year, the York Regional Police would partner with 2 other law enforcement agencies, the Ontario Regional Police and the Toronto Police Service, to crack down on the now potentially lethal towing industry. The operation was dubbed Project Platinum. It was a success. During the investigation phase, the authorities established that organized crime had clawed its way into the towing industry. The York Regional Police reported that at least 4 distinct but unnamed criminal organizations were fighting over turf. Besides body shops and physiotherapy clinics, there were also other businesses in the complex ecosystem of insurance fraud. Notable mentions included car rentals and even some corrupt police officers who had a say in the industry. In the end, Project Platinum announced more than 20 arrests with over 200 charges filed. On top of that, caches of weapons, money, tow trucks, and various drugs like fentanyl, cocaine, crystal meth, and cannabis were confiscated. To some, the idea that some police officers were involved might have come as a surprise. However, for many of the public and other tow truck drivers, this was apparently a well-known secret. Initially, before all of this madness, almost all police departments across Ontario had a steady policy in the event of an accident. They all had a revolving list of approved towing companies they could call to a wreck scene. However, as most police officers would later tell the public, they couldn't always adhere to this policy. In their defense, they stated that their goal was to clear the scene as fast as possible and restore traffic flow. Consequently, they had to rely on tow trucks that arrived first. And just like that, the whole towing business in Ontario began to be based upon the first available model. At first, it sounded like a good idea. After all, doesn't it make sense to say that the first driver to arrive at the scene deserves a contract? Unfortunately, it only bred extreme competition among some drivers who are now referred to as chasers. As the name suggests, these tow trucks literally raced one another on open highways to arrive first at the scene of the accident. Most drivers didn't have a problem with this model. After all, according to them, he who reacted the quickest deserved the deal. Nonetheless, issues started arising when it became apparent to towers that some police officers favored specific drivers. It wasn't rare for a tow truck driver to arrive first, only for the police to award the tow to the third driver. It got even worse when someone leaked information that some towing companies were equipped with cloned police radios that gave them a significant edge over the competition. It's these companies that tend to always be the first to arrive on the scene, even before the police. With no one to regulate what was going on, many of the public speculated that it was these drivers that tricked accident victims. Some even promised free towing services only to submit inflated invoices and force their clients to stick to specific body repair shops. Experts believed it was at this moment that organized crime, fueled by police corruption, set itself in stone in the towing industry. In July 2020, these beliefs were further solidified after 5 police officers across multiple departments were suspected of playing crucial roles in the tow truck war. According to inside reports, one of them was even accused of stealing and cloning at least 3 encrypted police radios that mysteriously went missing sometime back in February 2018. Things only worsened for them when it was even further established that 2 of the 5 corrupt officers not only owned 2 tow trucks, but also secretly owned a car rental business. At this point, towing had become dangerous. Criminal drivers pulled up with backup, or worse, electric tasers and handguns. They intimidated local tow truck companies, and if a rival driver dared to resist, they'd beat him up. Even if he survived the altercation, chances were very high that he'd wake up to his truck up in flames on his driveway. All in all, this reportedly happened because it was very easy to sign up as a tow truck driver in Ontario. There wasn't much documentation, and rarely did the authorities do background checks. In fact, way back in 2019, Project Kraken arrested 7 tow truck drivers with shady backgrounds. Before we continue, I've got a quick word to share from the people who made this video possible. I'm talking about the amazing wireless audio brand and this video sponsor, Raycon. Raycon earbuds provide premium sound quality at the perfect price point, with them being about half the price of other premium wireless earbuds. They feature noise isolation, 8 hours of battery life, sweat and water resistance, and my favorite, the perfect snug fit. After countless design iterations, their earbuds have been designed to not fall out of your ear no matter what activity you're doing. I love using my Raycon everyday earbuds for everything, from listening to music to going for a run, and I'm not the only one, as it has over 50,000 5-star reviews. If you're somehow unsatisfied with the product, Raycon even offers a 30-day free return policy, so there's no reason not to give it a shot. Ready to buy something small with a big impact? Click the link in the description box or go to buyraycon.com/hoodchronicles to get 15% off your Raycon purchase, as well as supporting our channel. Now let's get back into the story. One was even accused of not only using his truck in drug trafficking operations, but also smashing into jewelry stores. Traditional family-owned tow truck companies confirmed that the newcomers were mainly responsible for the new wave of violence and maliciousness. They explained that before crime entered the business, competition was fierce but healthy. Even though they frequently competed with one another, all was good the following morning and they'd always go about their work. However, these newcomers weren't like that. Unfortunately, in May 2020, the police reported 1 of 4 murders caused by the tow truck war. 23-year-old Hashim was shot in broad daylight outside his northern Toronto apartment. The following Thursday, 2 boys aged 15 and 17 were arrested and accused of taking part in the drive-by shooting. This incident, among many others, finally pushed the authorities into enacting stricter regulations. As of May 26, 2020, reports showed that only 17 out of Ontario's 444 municipalities required towing to be licensed. It was clear that something had to be done. In Toronto, it was decided that only police-approved towing companies would interact with collision victims. Additionally, all tow and storage operators were henceforth to be vetted through an annual application process that included vehicle licensing and driver background checks. To curb police corruption, officers could only call 1 towing company per shift, and all requests would be documented to avoid preferential treatment. Meanwhile, other cities like Ottawa took things even more seriously. Not only did they establish new licensing systems, but they also enacted new bylaws. One law specifically bans tow operators from being within 100 meters of a collision unless they're specifically authorized by the police. As expected, all these new laws and regulations helped reduce tow truck violence in the Greater Toronto Area. Unfortunately, it didn't end the criminal organizations behind it. History has consistently shown that when life for criminals gets harder, they simply relocate to another region. As recently as November 23, 2022, local civilians and tow truck operators in London are raising the alarm, following a noticeable increase in violence in the area. The daring towing mafias that once plagued the Greater Toronto Area are now rampaging their neighborhoods. Not only has there been cases of them racing down the highway, but also cases of them threatening and even shooting at each other while racing. London was among the cities that enacted new licensing regulations in 2021, requiring companies to post their contact details and business premises onto their trucks. Additionally, they're also to disclose their clients if they have a financial incentive for towing a vehicle to a particular repair shop. Failure to adhere to this, and drivers would attract $500 fines that could double to $1,000. Unfortunately, London's locals testify that these fines don't scare criminal organizations. They'll simply place that $1,000 burden on their next tow victim. As of November 13, 2022, one London-based company has had 2 of its trucks set on fire and 1 of its drivers targeted in a drive-by shooting that saw his vehicle take 6 bullets. Luckily, no one was injured. It also doesn't help that earlier, in June 2022, a high-profile towing corruption case collapsed out of the blue, with more than half of Project Platinum's arrests no longer facing charges. No official explanation was given. However, insider reports claim the case crumbled because the Crown could risk revealing witness identities that could potentially put them at risk. This isn't the first towing-related case to suddenly fall out. The same happened to a similar Ottawa corruption case that was dismissed due to an unreasonable delay in the proceedings against the defendants. With no solution in sight, tension is still high in London's towing industry, as drivers are forced to be safe rather than sorry. Lots of them are now reported to be shopping for bulletproof vests as they seek to protect themselves from the danger that is quickly taking over their highways. That said, most local drivers are even more concerned for the unlucky clients that might find themselves dealing with these criminal organizations. In particular, they're fearful for those whose vehicle might break down on stretches of roads not protected by regulations. As always, don't forget to like and subscribe to see more videos like this in the future. Also comment down below letting us know what you'd like to see next. Thanks for watching and have a good one.